Whenever you're ready, we can roll.
Okay, we're rolling.
Okay, good afternoon or good evening, everyone. Members of council, members of the public, welcome to the July 6th Committee of Adjustment meeting. Can I get someone to call the meeting to order? Moved by Councillor McDonnell, second by Councillor Lang. The meeting is called to order. All those in favor? Carried. Can I get an approval of the agenda as presented? Moved by Mayor Prevost, second by Councillor McDonnell. The approval of the agenda. All those in favor? Thank you. Approval of the minutes of the June 22nd meeting. There was a revision of those. Did everybody get them? Okay. And can I get a mover of those minutes as presented? Moved by Councillor Lang, second by Councillor McDonnell. All those in favor? Carried. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Alrighty, seeing none, moving on to A17-20, Ms. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you just allow me a minute to share my screen. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So welcome to our Committee of Adjustment meeting this evening. For those of you who are participating by Zoom or by phone, you will be permitted to speak to your respective application following my presentation. We ask that you please state your name and address for the record prior to speaking. And for those of you who are participating on Zoom, you're welcome to use the raise hand function and the chair will call upon you. And if you register to participate in the meeting by phone to speak to this application, you'll be asked if you would like to comment on the application before the applicable presentation, or excuse me, after the applicable presentation. So I'd like to start off by reading the required wording under the Ontario Planning Act. So any person may attend this hearing and or make written or verbal representation either in support of or in opposition to the proposed minor variance. If a person or public body does not make oral or written submissions at this hearing before the minor variance is decided upon, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the minor variance of the Committee of Adjustment to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, also known as LPAT. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a hearing or make written submissions to the Committee of Adjustment before the minor variance is decided upon, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the LPAT unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. So I'm going to get started with application A1720. This application's legal description is part of Lot 24, Concession 4 in the Geographic Township of Lancaster, now in South Glengarry, and is also known as 5449 Second Line Road. This is basically a key map of where the property is located. You can see we're along County Road 26 here, and this is Second Line Road here. So it's right on the south east corner of the property. This property is known as the former S.J. McLeod School. It was purchased by a numbered company, Canada Limited, for the purpose of personal licensed medical cannabis growth. A building permit has been applied for to change the use of the subject property, which will permit low human occupancy, which is similar to the occupancy of a barn. Prior to the permit being able to be issued, a minor variance needed to be applied for and approved, and the purpose of this minor variance would be to permit an agricultural use on an existing lot that is 2.03 hectares in size for the growing of cannabis. If this is approved, all other agricultural uses will be permitted on this property also. And that's simply because in the zoning bylaw and the agricultural use definition allows for a variety of different types of agricultural purposes. So this property is designated agricultural resource in the county official plan, and the application does conform to the general intent of the official plan. And the property is zoned agriculture and conforms to the general intent of the zoning bylaw. I just want to explain why the property is zoned agriculture. In 2009, we redid a comprehensive zoning bylaw that reflected the amalgamated municipality of South Glengarry. At that time, we worked with the school board to determine what was the best use of that property. It could have remained in an institutional zone, but there was talks then of the school possibly being declared surplus and being sold. And because the property is designated agricultural resource in the county official plan, there are limited uses for that property because it has to conform to the agricultural resource designation and the provincial policy statement. So basically has to be compatible with prime agricultural uses. So it was decided then that the land would be zoned agricultural. The school would remain as non-conforming until such time there was a sale of the property, and then we would determine what the proposed use of that property would be. Hence the reason for the minor variance application this evening to create an agricultural use, or to permit, I should say, an agricultural use on that property. And this is the same map, but just shows the green for the zoning. So you can see that the whole area is zoned and designated agricultural on that area, on the property and surrounding area. And we've received one written comment to date from an abutting property owner. This comment was sent to the Committee of Adjustment by the property owner directly. I've also shared this comment with the agent of the applicant. Planning and building have no concerns with the proposed minor variance. And the United Counties of SD&G was also circulated, and they have no comments on this application. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And I do believe, Mr. Chair, that the agent for the applicant is present as well that can answer specific questions.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Joanne, a question in regards to the minor variance. Is the minor variance only to allow cannabis, or is it a minor variance that could be used for other agricultural purposes?
It'll be for agricultural use, so it could be everything that falls within the definition.
And what's all, is the definition, what if somebody went in and put 10 horses, for an example, because it's an agricultural use? So what control do we have on?
So you could put conditions on that if you're concerned about the number of animals based on the size of the property. But at this point, if this property owner were to sell it and a new buyer came along and wanted to have 10 horses, then yes, that would be permitted.
That would be permitted?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Is there any questions from the public or any comments? Madam Clerk?
I don't see any hands up at this time.
Okay. Did you, Ms. Haley, did you say that the agent for the applicant is on the line?
It was my understanding that they would be participating and speaking to the application.
Okay.
They are on the line.
Okay, I'll, oh, Matthew McElligott raised his hand. Councillor McDonnell, I'll go to you right after this other gentleman. Is that okay?
Yep.
Go ahead, Matthew, you're live. Oh, you were.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much for having me. Can you see me as well? I'm not sure.
No, cannot see you. Can you please state your name and who you are, sir?
Absolutely. So my name is Matthew McElligott. I'm principal of policy and planning at FO10 Consultants. Our municipal address in Ottawa is 396 Cooper Suite 300. And yes, we have been, as the planner Joanne had pointed out, retained by the owner to represent him for this minor variance application. So really, I'm just here to kind of provide my support to the planner's comments. I think she summarized it quite well. It's a pretty straightforward application. I think one thing I would point out is that the application for a minor variance is to allow for a reduction in the lot area from 2.5 hectares to 2.03 hectares. So it's just a minor, I guess, decrease in the permitted lot area, constituting a minor variance. I won't go through all the 4 tests of minor variances unless you would prefer me to. But I do think that Joanne did go through, it does meet the official plan, as you know, it's designated agricultural resources. It does meet the intent of the bylaw, which it is zoned for agricultural uses. And just for a point of clarification, maybe I'd need to be educated, but I don't think any agricultural uses would be permitted because it is an undersized lot. So allowing agriculture take place on an undersized lot, whether it's cannabis or any other, soy or what have you, would require a minor variance application.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. McElligott. Councillor McDonnell, you had a comment or question? And then,
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I guess I just struggle with it, with the application itself, because it came up. It's been a year or so that this production's been going on, and kind of the general public is kind of known, and we were late to the ball field because nobody came to us. I guess that was the only reserve I had against this, was that the wool was almost pulled over our eyes to get this application or get the investment done, so that it was easier in their mind maybe to get the application passed. I mean, as far as a minor variance, yeah, it applies in general, and there is no issue, I guess, with them applying for this minor variance, because it's exactly what I would do were I to buy it, to tear the building down and farm right through the yard. I don't appreciate the way it was done personally, but I don't know. I mean, if we don't approve it, it's just going to be appealed. So it's agriculture, but it's not what we're used to as agriculture. I guess as farmers, we're used to, myself having the peanut line in the back of our farm. We've always had marijuana grown in our fields or cannabis grown in our fields, but it wasn't always us growing it. It was generally people cutting our crop out to put it in. But
I hope it wasn't you guys growing it.
Too much work to do that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McDonnell. Councillor Jaworski, and then back to the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think, like what Councillor McDonnell is saying, this is a new type of agriculture for the area. And I think there's a lot of questions. Folks have a lot of questions about what cannabis production might mean. And it does sound like the proponents are taking steps to limit the impact. A lot of people talk about odor and whatnot. It sounds like they're taking those steps to limit those impacts. But my question was to Ms. Haley. I just wanted to maybe if you could elaborate a bit on, potentially future kind of minor variances to this, or topics around this type of production. The fact that this is not a retail or not a commercial production, it has slightly different rules. Is that true? That if this were a commercial production or manufacturing cannabis site?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. So, for example, if this type of if this building was being proposed to be a medical marijuana production facility, then it would not be permitted to be located in this location, simply because it would have to be zoned industrial, and industrial uses would not be permitted in a prime agricultural area. So we would be looking at that type of use in a different area of our municipality, where either an existing industrial use is industrial zone is in place, or it would trigger a site-specific amendment for a new location. However, when we're dealing with personal medical marijuana licenses, you could also be growing that product on your own personal property as well. And so we would have to look at each type of application or each request individually and very carefully to make sure what approvals would be required, if any.
In terms of being, if I may have a follow-up, that's okay, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Does that apply if being located in an industrial zone? So, I mean, I understand, I think medical marijuana has to be done like in a building, but if someone wanted to do more like an outdoor cultivar for recreational cannabis, would that also have to be done in an industrial zone where they could grow it? I understand like smaller plots, well, not small to what we're used to for agriculture. I mean, smaller than what we're used to here can be done outdoors, I understand. Would that also have to be an industrial zone?
So currently in our bylaw, because we don't differentiate cannabis growth from other agricultural products, then you could have outdoor cannabis growth in our agricultural or rural areas. And then that would be subject to Health Canada licenses.
Okay, it sounds like we maybe need to do a review of that to see if in the future, to see if there's other recommendations. I know Councillor McDonnell and I spoke today, and he had mentioned about maybe bringing up something to the Ag Resource Committee for feedback. I thought that was a good idea, and he may want to add to that. I'll go to the mayor and then back to you, Sam, if you have any further comments.
And Mr. Chair, Mr. McElligott also has his hand up.
Oh, I didn't see that. I'm not the host. Sorry. Mr. Mayor, would you wait till Mr. McElligott speaks? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I just wanted to step in because I understand and I can appreciate the councillors' concerns with how this came about. And rest assured, you know, we were only recently brought into the mix, and obviously, you know, in speaking with the owner, is my understanding that he actually reached out to the township at some point in time to clarify whether there was a requirement for a variance application, and didn't hear back. Whether, you know, this got lost in translation, I'm not sure. I can't speak to that. I was actually hoping that he would be on the line to speak to that. But he is aware of, you know, in neighboring municipalities or townships that, you know, he's had to have a minor variance for, you know, substandard lot size as well. And he's gone through the process. So he is mindful of the process. And I don't think it was intentional by any stretch that, you know, he, you know, pursued growing cannabis without any permissions from the municipality. I think just wanted to clarify that because I just would hope that it wouldn't be held against the applicant. The second thing is I just wanted to clarify the use because actually it's been a bit of a learning curve for me. So it is a very, very small scale, just production. Sorry, just growing only. So there's no processing, no production into like any kind of extracts or oil. There's no sale on the property. It's really just small scale. It's not commercial. It really is 4 separate licenses for 4 separate clients. And these clients range from people with multiple sclerosis and other medical issues who just can't grow in their own dwellings. So just wanted to kind of, I guess, communicate to you that it's not one of these big, you know, licensed producers like a Canopy Growth or anything. It's very micro scale, and it's really suited for people with medical issues and needs. So I just wanted to make that distinction, and I'm not sure if it matters or not, but you know, I just wanted to clarify those 2 points with the councillors today and the committee tonight. So I thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. McElligott. Sam, we'll go to Mr. Mayor, and then I'll send it over to you.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chair. Joanne, my understanding is really we're here to decide on the minor variance based point only, really. I mean, it's not really, it could be cannabis, it could be something else. But I guess my only concern is if it is something else at some point, what control does this municipality have in regards to what, if it is animals, what control do we have in regards to how many animals could be on that property or in that building only based on the size?
So through you, Mr. Chair. So if an individual puts animals on the property, and let's say those animals then trigger a need for a shelter, well, then a building permit would be required. And at that stage, we would be looking at minimum distance separation guidelines. We'd also be looking at the Nutrient Management Act. It is possible that maybe a building permit would never be triggered, and those animals would always be remaining outside. So they would just be pasturing in the land. Let's say that there was a permit that was requested to convert a portion of the former school into, you know, barn purposes. Well, then that would trigger a building permit, and then, you know, trigger those reviews. So we do have some controls in place. If you go to the point where, let's say, you're worried about too many animals being located on that property, and you're worried about the welfare and the health and safety of the animals, then I mean, that certainly could be looked at with the OSPCA and the Ministry of Agriculture as well. So we do still have a little bit of teeth. We know that the property is certainly not large enough for cash crop. The property could also have a dwelling on it. So it's possible that a portion of the school could be converted because a single family home could also be a use on that property together with an ag use. So I'm not sure it has maybe all the controls you're looking for, but there are definitely some provisions in place that would allow us to regulate it.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think you answered my question based on that we do have some controls, and if somebody did apply for something, then we have controls in place in regards to what would take place there. But again, we're just voting on the minor variance. We're not voting on what's going to be active there after the minor variance is through. But thank you.
Okay, back to you, Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Joanne, can you answer me? I guess there's two questions, and I'm not trying to be petty on this. I'm just, in regards to this property, did we not have to put a stop building order on? Were there not renovations done without, or am I misled?
So again, through you, Mr. Chair, there was no stop work order put in place. We were made aware of the possibility of some construction occurring. Our building official did attend to the site, left what we call a door knocker. So a document that asked them to contact our municipal office. The property owner did, and they've obtained an engineering firm and completed the necessary requirements to obtain a building permit. In fact, our building permit is ready to be issued if this minor variance application is approved.
Okay, no, and I guess question two for you would be, what is the possibility of future growth on that property? Is there the potential to put, say, greenhouses up on that property, or are we able to restrict greenhouse growing? Because to my knowledge, I'm not concerned about smell from the existing building there. I'm more concerned for if a greenhouse were constructed, because they do emit all the smell. There is no absorption by the building.
So in my opinion, and I mean, I'm trying to answer a hypothetical question here, and there's a lot of variables, and we're all still learning about the individual, I shouldn't say individual, the different types of licenses that can be provided by Health Canada. So in my opinion, if this were to become a commercial facility, then it's going to trigger different planning application processes to be able to sign off for Health Canada to issue that that license. It is my understanding in speaking with Health Canada that what's occurring on site is the maximum that can occur because the 4 licenses have been combined. I mean, maybe Mr. McElligott could offer additional comments to that as well, but I don't see this becoming bigger without triggering additional processes.
That I'm fine with that. And if that's the case, I'm okay.
Mr. McGillick, did you want to hop in a comment there?
Sure. I mean, what I've been told, I mean, obviously I haven't gone to the property to inspect by any stretch, but what I've been told is only a portion of the building's being used, and there is no need to erect any type of greenhouse or have it like on the outside of the building. It's going to be all contained inside, and I think realistically, I think it needs to be. I think that's where you have a controlled environment and a secure environment as well. So there's certainly no intention of having anything exterior to the building. It's really truly just adaptive reuse of the school building in order to take advantage of the infrastructure, really, which otherwise would just kind of lay vacant and maybe dilapidate over time.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. McElligott. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. I'm going to agree with what our mayor said. I think tonight we're looking at whether or not to grant a minor variance for agricultural use on this property. It's in a prime location for agricultural use. It's surrounded by it. I can't think of a better place to put this if you were picking a place in our township. So I think I'm going to be okay with it. I mean, it's new and it's different for us, and I'm sure we all have lots of questions, but I don't know. I'm gonna be okay with it, I guess. Well, as long as we have some control, as the mayor said, over somebody deciding 3 years down the road that they want to put a hog barn on this property, that we since we have the minimum distance separation, I guess we will be able to address those issues at that time. So I'm good with it. Thanks.
Okay, so I'm taking that we're ready to approve or whatever. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that moved by Councillor Lang to approve as presented. Can I get a seconder? Mayor Prevost. All those in favor of approving the application as presented? Carried. Thank you very much. So next meeting, Ms. Haley.
So our next
Item
meeting is scheduled for July 20th. At this point, I believe I have 4 applications on the agenda. Possibly we'll be processing one more and they need to be circulated on Wednesday of this week. So it'll be a busy meeting and that one will be scheduled for 5:30 p.m.
All righty, thank you very much. So can I get a move for adjournment? Moved by Councillor McDonnell, second by Councillor Jaworski. All in favor? Okay, thank you very much, folks. We'll see you in a couple minutes back on the YouTube for our regular meeting. Thank you.